So I wanted to show an article responding to this commenter about having the COVID vaccine and then having gynecological changes and symptoms post-COVID vaccine. Now, let me show you. So for the record, I am not attached to any ideas and hold them closely to my heart. I just read research and I treat patients and I see how things go down. So women had been dealt a raw hand since COVID, whether it be the vaccine, whether they had COVID. We know that COVID has been undiagnosed in many people, but like the moral of the story is COVID has really changed the game for women in general. And this, when I say COVID, is including the vaccine, just in general. But this particular article that came out in 2022 shows menstrual abnormalities after COVID-19 vaccine. And this is a systematic review, which is a really, this is the kind of article you want to see. So let me show you something. Because this is a newer thing, the research is emerging. In this systematic review, a total of 78,138 vaccinated females were included in this review from 14 studies. Now, they do say that they included some preprints because the information is so limited, but of those, 39,759 women, so 52%, had some form of menstrual problem after vaccination. So this is really emerging in research, but they say that age, history of pregnancy, systemic side effects of COVID-19, smoking, second dose of COVID vaccine were all predictors of menstrual problems after vaccination. Now, what we also know in research is that we have had a moment in women's health where we are really coming to the table as part of the conversation as people that deserve healthcare. And our hormones affect a lot of things, like lots of things. It affects everything in our body. Now, because of COVID and long haul COVID, some women are not being diagnosed with their perimenopause because they didn't know about perimenopause and long haul COVID symptoms. Now, it has been a whole crazy thing that is happening in our world, period. And women's health is also crazy because we're finally emerging, we're finally coming out, the data is finally slowly trickling out. But we know there are gynecological changes, hormone changes, inflammatory changes, and people who did and didn't get the vaccine, people who did and didn't have COVID, but it is here to stay. And at the end of the day, I can't speak to vaccines because that's not my wheelhouse. I can't talk about that. But what I can talk about is inflammation. And COVID is an inflammatory disorder. And this is where it's like a whole host of problems. So I never tested positive for COVID, but I think I had COVID based on some other factors. I'm not saying this person had COVID. She might have had COVID, but like perimenopause can come on at 35 and maybe this triggered it. I don't know.